The broadcast is now starting. All
And
attendees are in
to our
listen-only
webinar on
mode.
the importance of professional facilities management. Our presenter today is Robert Fernandez, and I will let him introduce himself to you in a few seconds. But I'm just going to run through very quickly through some housekeeping rules so that you know what's happening. The slides and the recording for this webinar will be available within a week. We'll send you an email to the link so you can hear it all again and also download the slides. At the end of the webinar, a post-webinar survey will pop up, and we'd really appreciate it if you give it a few seconds to give us your feedback on how things went. And lastly, if you have any questions, you can type it into the question box and Robert will take them and answer them at the end. I hope you enjoyed this webinar and thank you for coming.
Good afternoon and welcome to this afternoon's webinar. My name is Robert Fernandez. I'm a fellow of the BIFM, that is the British Institute of Facilities Management. I'm an independent FM consultant. Although I'm based in the UK, I have been visiting the Middle East region for several years, usually working with Informa to present BIFM courses. Let me ask you some questions. Why have you logged into our webinar this afternoon? Are you thinking about a career in facilities management? Do you just want to know what it's all about? Are you wondering where your FM career goes from here? Well, whatever the reason, here's what I want to ask you. How are you responding to the challenge and opportunities presented by facilities management? What's my game plan for this afternoon's session? Well, firstly, we will have a quick look at the question, what is FM? Next, we'll explore why FM has come into being and why it's becoming more and more recognized globally. Then I want to talk about how we can become more professional in the way we practice facilities management. Finally, I want to discuss why FM is becoming more important here in the Middle East. Well, let's start at the beginning. I'm going to give you a definition that you won't find in the textbooks. And the reason is, it's not in the textbooks. It's one I made up myself. Well, here it is. FM is looking after buildings and the people in them. Like that definition? Some people say that FM would be easy if it wasn't for people. Well, I understand what they mean, but you know, buildings can be awkward as well. That's why I usually ask FM wannabes if they are sure they really want to get into FM. It can be a bit daunting at times. So, what is FM? Well, one way of describing FM is to talk about the services which facilities managers are responsible for. So here we go. In no particular order, security. These days, security could be one or more of these. Some people feel that these are an intrusion into our private lives. Others feel that if you're not doing anything illegal, why should you want to object to them? What do you think? But it's not just cameras. It might be security by mobile patrol, like this guy, or it could be one of these guards. This guard really wouldn't need to raise his voice, would he? You'd get the message. Cleaning is a major FM responsibility. Yeah, I couldn't resist taking this photo in a building in downtown Dubai. The place was immaculate. Do you think the cleaners were making a point? Clean doesn't happen by magic. What about window cleaning? You know how they do the Burj Khalifa, don't you? That's right, like this. If you've seen the movie Mission Impossible 4, you know, one with Tom Cruise in, you'll recognize these Tom Cruise lookalikes. What about maintenance then? Ever seen the plant room for your building? If not, tell you what, try to get yourself invited to have a look at it. If it's not your responsibility, have a look. You may be surprised to see all the equipment that's needed to keep a modern building operational. But FM usually includes what they call soft services as well, like reception. Yes, that is a fish tank in the background, you can see there. Somebody has to take care of that as well, you know, and yes, that would be FM. What about mailrooms? I'm not sure that mailrooms always look this tidy. Do you want to rephrase that? Mailrooms never look this tidy. Stationery supplies in the stationery store? Well, I have to say this stationery store looks more real than the mailroom we've just looked at, don't you think? Or it could be that job that fills facilities managed with horror, trying to manage the company car park. There's never enough of them, spaces that is, and everybody wants the best one. And somewhere in the middle is the facilities manager trying to organize all that lot. Or it could be project management, actions like relocation or move management. Well, it's another area in which FM is expected to deliver these days is energy and sustainability management. Now, the technologies which I've shown on this slide are UK government-backed schemes, all designed to produce green energy. But more and more, organizations are expected to play their part in conserving energy and being environmentally friendly. So in small to medium-sized organizations, this responsibility is often given to the FM. An important area of FM is in the way that space is managed. Well, since space represents the second highest cost to a business, after staff costs, I mean, it's vital to use space as efficiently as possible. There's another area that usually comes under the remit of facilities management. Another area of responsibility, which is often given to FMs, is in small to medium-sized organizations anyway, is property management. Well, this includes making sure that the organization has all the real estate it needs and that it is properly managed and maintained. And then there's that whole area of occupational safety and health and safety. Practically everything that a facilities manager does has a health and safety implication. So in many companies, corporate responsibility for health and safety is given to the facilities manager. So, what is FM? Well, we've had a look at those areas and services that we usually include under FM. But to be fair, those services are not actually FM. So, what is FM? Well, facilities management is that management discipline which delivers those services to the organization. And how does it do so? First, at FM, I would identify the services required by discussion with staff or some other way. Next, it would specify the scope of those services. Thirdly, it would then procure those services, whether that's by hiring people to do it in-house or, more usually these days, going out into the market and buying it in as an outsourced service. 4, FM puts those services in place. And finally, FM would manage those services on an ongoing basis. Next, move on. Let's ask that next question. Why has FM begun to emerge as an important, even vital aspect of modern business? Well, here are some reasons. I don't have to remind you that over the last 25 years, PCs have revolutionized the way that we do business. Remember these? Those big CRTs or monitors that kicked off the PC revolution? Those CRTs needed bigger desks than we'd ever had before, That's FM. Bigger desks require more space. That's also FM. They required cabling systems to provide connectivity. That is IT working with FM. They produced more heat, which called for more air conditioning. That's also FM. They required computer suites or data centers. That's IT working with FM. Another reason for the appearance of FM was the arrival of more complex buildings. Organizations had to change, and buildings had to change to accommodate them. These images on this screen, they're of Lloyd's of London building built in the 80s. Oh yeah, that was cutting edge at the time, but things have moved on since then. But I don't need to tell a Middle East audience about sophisticated buildings. Yeah, you in the Middle East know more about this than most. Buildings like these require very talented engineers as well as facilities managers to operate, maintain them, and to look after the people in them. And over the last few years, organizations have become more demanding of their staff. At the same time, they recognize they need to attract and retain the best people. So the workplace is no longer simply a place where people turn up and do a bit of work. It's a place where staff enjoy being, with standards of comfort that at least match what they have at home. It wasn't always like that. And because staff are under pressure to perform, they too have become more demanding. They want space and they want services that really help them to perform at their best. FMs have responded by delivering high-quality workspace, a safe, comfortable, productive, and attractive working environment for the staff in the building. Another feature of modern business is the need to respond more quickly to organizational change. FMs have had to learn how to deliver internal change much more rapidly than they ever did before. The need for better financial planning is another driver that has given rise to the development of FM. FMs realize that cheapest is not always best, and that it's necessary to consider whole life cycle costs. In addition, FM budgets can be significant, and finance directors want those budgets carefully prepared and wisely administered. In the UK, large, costly public sector schemes have been delivered to government by the private sector. These schemes, run by FM companies, have forced FM to plan 20, 30 years ahead. And the result of that has been increasing professionalism in facilities management. And that's not something small and local. Dubai, Qatar, Abu Dhabi, Saudi, Russia, Angola. I know from first-hand experience that all these practice facilities management. FM truly is a global phenomenon. So with all that as a backdrop, it's easy to see why an institute like the BIFM would emerge. So, why has the BIFM come into being? Well, here are some reasons. To define and set standards that represent best practice. Now, this is not the institute sitting in a corner and thinking up grand thoughts. This is something which the members would be very closely involved in. Secondly, to encourage and develop more professional approach. To undertake research, promote growth of knowledge and understanding among its members. To represent the interests of a large and growing number of practitioners. To develop and promote education and training. And now, what was originally a small, informal group of practitioners has evolved into a thriving institute of 15,000 members. And we're still out there looking for more. But let's focus on that last item, education and training. What does that look like? Well, the most exciting recent development in FM is the introduction of a fully integrated system of qualifications. In line with all other UK qualifications, it is now possible to obtain qualifications from the most basic level upwards. This slide, that's a bit small, but if you can see it, shows how these qualifications compare with other UK qualifications right up to degree level and beyond. How have those qualifications been developed? Well, over a number of years, best practice FM has been carefully and rigorously defined to develop a professional standards framework. The screen I'm showing you indicates that has got two competences, only two competences, very specific FM functions, and this describes best practice at several different levels, from the most operational right up to the most strategic. So you can see the value of this is wherever you are in that education and training scenario, you map your career accordingly, and then you undertake the appropriate training. What's the framework used for? Well, it enables facilities managers to establish exactly where they're at in terms of knowledge, experience, skills. So it's a guide for assessing your future career development and training needs. And the framework has also been used as the basis for training course design and development. Makes sense, doesn't it? You've got to align your training with the information, with the data that indicates what best practice is. So it's enabled, that data has enabled BIFM training, that's the training arm of the Institute, to develop courses that cover the entire field of facilities management. Over the last few years, Informa, BIFM's Middle East partner, have brought these courses to Dubai and other centres in the region. Special arrangements have even been made so that course attendance in the region can be counted as CPD. Which brings us neatly to the question, why FM in the Middle East? Or to expand the question, what does this have to do with the Middle East? Well, first, everybody knows about the huge building programs in oil-rich Middle East countries. But so far, the emphasis has been on construction. That's right, isn't it? Increasingly, those who are responsible for managing and maintaining buildings are looking to professional facilities management as best practice building management. It's not just that. Companies know that real estate costs are high, but they are still relatively modest compared with the cost of the staff who occupy the building. So, companies are increasingly keen that their staff should operate efficiently. And that's where facilities management comes in. It's seen as the discipline that helps staff to become more effective. But it's not just that. This region has unique challenges which we in the UK do not face. I mean, the effect of sun and climate on buildings, and that includes damage to the external fabric, the massive cost of air conditioning, and the carbon footprint associated with all these. So applying best practice facilities and property management can begin to address these huge issues. In conclusion, well, it's time to bring the presentation to an end. Hope you find it interesting. I'd be happy to take questions, so do be in touch. So regardless of why you chose to listen to my presentation, let me ask you again. How are you responding to the challenge and opportunities presented by facilities management? Thank you.
Thank you. Keep it on. You've got a couple of questions. That's me.
Hi, I've got a question here from Sherry Almas. And it asks a really good question. I better be ready for the answer. And the question is this: is it really possible to plan 20 or 30 years ahead in these times? I know what you mean, Sherry. Businesses don't even know if they're going to be in operation next year, let alone in... Let me explain. When I mentioned those government schemes, I was talking about things like hospitals, schools, big, important, costly government schemes. And the answer, or the assumption is that yes, they are going to be around in 20 to 30 years' time. And that is why those who design and then manage the buildings have a great responsibility to make the thing as economical to manage over time as possible. Now just think about this. What will that involve? Well, what it will involve is choosing good materials that will last the passage of time. Materials that will be relatively easy to clean and maintain. Materials that will last the course, that will be around in 20 to 30 years' time. So the answer to your question is, yes, it can be done. And in the process, as I suggested during my talk, it really does force facilities managers to develop their skills and to be much more professional about what they do. There's more to your question. Did the BIFM incorporate in this presentation the various standards now being issued in the various emirates? I think the answer is probably not. I'm aware to a certain extent of some of the issues, but local problems have to develop local solutions. I think that the future of facilities management does not lie in somebody coming out from the UK and telling you guys what to do. I think the future of FM in this region is going to be local facilities managers aware of local issues, developing local solutions to them. Having said that, there are some basic principles involved, and that's where the BIFM does come in. Because in training, what we try to convey is basic principles rather than customized solutions. So yes, the principles should apply even in different locations. So there's one last point to it. These are creating a compliance issue for delivering FM to the UAE. This is, by the way, this is Karia Reid asking the question. I'm aware of that, and I'm not sure that sitting here today I have any immediate solutions for you, but I sympathize because compliance is going to be a big issue, isn't it? And more so as government realizes it has a role to play in the whole area of property management and facilities management. Any more questions out there? Happy to take them. It looks as if.
Actually, I want to say, can you explain the FM career path? Is that a good question?
Okay, another question here, and it's, could you explain the FM career path? Yes, I can tell you what my own experience was, and strangely, it seems to be very similar to lots of others. And that is, I started at the beginning. No one ever sets out to become a facilities manager, or at least traditionally that's been the case. What people find themselves doing is one day they wake up and find that they've been appointed a facilities manager, or they've been asked to do something. Let me explain how I came into this. I was asked to sit on a team of people who were going to manage the exit from a building in the City of London to another part of London. I'd never done anything like this before, but I got wished onto this team. It took us about 6 months to plan and fit out the building and then move people in. At the end of that, my boss said to me, "Well, we need somebody to look after the building. Robert, it's you." So I, not knowing what I was letting us in for, I said, "Fine, okay," I took it on. And then a little bit later, after I'd got what I thought was the building under control, I said, "Okay, well, look, no one's looking after the HQ building in the City of London. Do you think I could?" And the answer was yes, feel free to do so. It didn't give me any more money, but but I increased my responsibility. In the end, I ended up with about 250,000 square feet to look after. And then we bought a big building in London, 750,000 square feet. And you'll understand that by this time, my FM career had begun to develop. And I'll tell you something strange. Many of the people I've talked to over the years, that's almost exactly how they came into it as well. They never set out to, but they got into it, and then when they're in it, they begin to discover that it's a very interesting career path. So not the normal FM career path, I'm not sure there is one, but very often it's people coming into it by mistake, seeing that they love it, and continue to develop their career that way. Having said that, with qualifications now available, it is possible for people to go to university and to get an FM degree and develop their career in that way. But that's traditionally not how it's happened. But thanks for asking the question anyway. Okay, no more questions. So I just want to say thank you very much for those of you who have listened. Thank you to those two who have asked me some very interesting questions. And I look forward to seeing you on one of my courses. Goodbye.